So this photo is from one of the protests that occurred in the downtown area of Huntsville, Alabama, at the steps of the Madison County Courthouse. What's his name? George Floyd was the call and response. This officer showed his solidarity for those in the crowd at this moment. This officer is in a place of power to effect change in the community and within his ranks. I pray that this was not merely an emotional reaction to what was happening before his eyes. I pray that he works to dismantle what's in place whenever and however possible. I pray that he continues to show solidarity while still protecting and serving. So, yeah, the Huntsville area is right outside of where I reside. And, it was a regular day for me initially, at work. But then as I was getting news about what was going on, I just felt the need to be there and document what was going on and take it in and see how everyone else in the area was feeling about what was going on. Not only was the George Floyd situation happening, but locally there was a young man that was basically murdered by the police in a parking lot right outside of a Planet Fitness in my area. So that was also on everyone's minds. It was happening around the same time, along with Breonna Taylor and everyone else who has been everyone's been kind of fighting for justice for. So I just needed to get out there and see what was going on, and like I said, document it. And it was pretty intense, as protests are, of course. It was peaceful for the most part. And then near the end, it got a little more intense. Right after the image that I got there were two other officers who were kind of in the same pose. And it was kind of conflicting. They were getting conflicting kind of feedback from the crowd. Some were seeing where they were coming from and understanding their situation. Others had a different attitude about it, with the news of, policemen and women kind of in the same stance or, kind of trying to portray that same sentiment, were then immediately afterwards in the middle of kind of brutalizing protesters and those that would be marching. And so, there was that kind of that conflict there. And I actually got to not necessarily know the officer so much. I knew him. I heard from him from others who actually know him in the area. So it kind of has more of a genuine feel to me because of that. I found that out after the fact. And eventually I'd like to speak with him again, after all this time has gone by, to see, where he's at with everything that went on that day.
What do you think made this such a compelling photo? Or how did you feel at that time?
Just the fact that, hearing of it happening in other places where they seem to be with the crowd and then end up not being with the crowd. Just being there to actually see what actually happens in a situation like that, where you just get what the news is providing as far as the outcome of the situation or someone's secondhand opinion of it or their perspective on it. But just to be there and see it for myself, and then later on really get an idea of who the person was, kind of helped in changing how I felt about law enforcement in some situations. Although I already have had my own experiences and my own opinion about it. In fact, I shared the photo with someone and I got the all cops are bad kind of an answer from them, and being there, I saw, I don't know the guy from this photo at that point in time, but it didn't seem like it was not genuine, and explain to them, hey, I've grew up in a neighborhood where we had good cops and bad cops. Of course, like anything else, there's a good and a bad. For the most part, there was a real desire to protect the community, but of course there are those situations where that's not necessarily the case.
Can you tell me a
And
little bit about Huntsville?
yeah, it's in this, it's an area where I you could say, as of everything that was kind of going on during that time, there's been, I guess you could say, that people have been given a little more license to tell you who they are, whereas before, everyone kind of kept that type of thing to themselves. Now you see a lot more of the, Confederate flags flying on pickups, and people with shirts that are saying like "Let's go Brandon" or "Blue Lives Matter," and there's a lot more of it happening in the area and you're now seeing that your next door neighbor is like this. The person who checks you out at the grocery store is like this. So it's become kind of interesting in how you interact with people. But other than that, it's I guess you could say a progressive town. Many people aren't from here; they come here for work. It's an engineering town. We have missile defense. We have an arsenal in the area, one of the larger ones. So most people aren't from here. So that's also interesting, seeing folks that aren't necessarily from a place that you would normally see that kind of an attitude from, having that. So just all around interesting time, and interacting with people.
So how are you so brave that you were in this officer's face taking a photo of him?
Um, I didn't feel any like fear or concern in the time. I guess foolishly, I don't know. It was my first time at a protest, actually just documenting it. Um, but I guess also I've before this, I guess I might need to preface it. So before this, I've always been, photographing since I was about 9 years old, on and off. But then just kind of wanted to take it more seriously as I got older. And my style was more of a kind of being stealth, street photography, things of that nature. So I'm not noticed when I'm taking photos, so I can kind of move around freely. That's how it's always been for me. So I kind of took that and implemented it into this, and I got to be able to sneak around or just be in someone's face and get what I need and then move on. And then it got to a point where it was just, comfortable, I guess. No one was really opposed to any photos being taken of them. I made eye contact with him several times, so I stayed around, for a little bit before I actually took the photo as well. So, he could understand that, I wasn't on the side that was necessarily, um, a danger in any way. Just there to document things and kind of be objective about what was going on in that way. So, with that, just kind of being able to move around without necessarily being noticed, and then making that eye contact with them, and then getting a little closer, little by little, I was eventually able to just kind of be comfortable and get a few shots of them.
What do you think is so unique about your image amongst or being in Huntsville, amongst all the Black Lives Matter movement and all the protests that happened that year?
I guess one of the things is that, being that it's one of the areas where you don't necessarily hear about anything going on like this. Like I stated before, everyone kind of sticks to themselves as far as, what their politics are and what their beliefs are in that way. So to see that just kind of pour out in one place was pretty unique. Um, even a little while after that, something I've not ever seen in the area is there was a monument right outside of the courthouse, and it got doused in red paint. And stuff like that doesn't happen here. No matter what people disagree about, it kind of just doesn't happen. So to see that happen in this area was pretty unique, just in that regard. Really, aside from, I think from what I've seen, most of the images I've seen about around that time frame has been a more us against them type of a feel. Which, I mean, it's protest, so I get that. But I think showing that this officer was kind of trying to show his solidarity with those were in pain, who were, you know, needing to speak out and get their situation heard was I guess is a different way of looking at it. Or maybe someone doesn't necessarily feel like they can trust, but just having that image of him there, maybe they can look at it a little bit and see, okay, well, he may have, you know, a heart for what's going on. I don't know. Maybe I need to speak with police officers in my area and see how they feel. You know, speak to those who may be against whatever they feel the police officers or the, you know, their local law enforcement are about, just to get both sides of it, you know.
Is there anything particularly in your life that compels you to want to share that perspective?
I think being out there that day more than anything, it kind of gave me more of a direction with my photography. Whereas before I would shoot anything, you know, if I found myself just doing street photography, great. Otherwise, you know, still life, what have you. But I think I've found my voice in that, and I want to kind of just document people and figure out where they're coming from. There's an origin to everything, you know, whether you have that belief that, you know, that all cops are bad, you know, there's a reason for that. There's something about that. Or, you know, your current situation is a direct result of something else, and just documenting that, finding out what it is, bringing visibility to it. So, you know, even after this, I found myself just more talking to people and then, you know, getting their story a bit, then, you know, getting a photo of them. And so, yeah, that makes it to where, you know, I get a chance to kind of see all sides of the situation. And in coming to someone objectively, someone who normally wouldn't speak to me or allow, you know, that conversation to take place, I can get that access, you know.
Well, what are you passionate about now? What projects are you working on now?
So right now, it just kind of it's just something that just kind of happened over time. I have something that's loosely titled, or working title is The Beautiful, like America the Beautiful. So one day I was riding out to where my oldest daughter lives, and you know, she's in it's a more, like, you could say, rural area, or a smaller area of Tennessee. And on my way there, it just progressively got more and more southern. It's a, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, there are a lot of American flags, and then you see a lot of Confederate flags, and you see the "Don't Tread on Me," and then you see the, you know, it got progressively, you know, I guess you could say patriotic.
How does, how does that make you feel?
Um, it's, you know, it's disappointing, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if you don't expose yourself to much more than what you're used to, I get it. You know, that's what you know. But at the same time, the information is out there. The people that are the people in the beliefs that you feel you're so against are out there. you can find out if what you believe is true. But if you just want to hold to that, belief is a hard thing to kind of get rid of. It's just one of those things you have to kind of step outside of in order to be able to deal with other people who you normally wouldn't deal with. So yeah, I mean, I would see that, and then I just started to just get pictures of flags or things that were showing someone's patriotism or their loyalty. And so I just found myself just with a bunch of files like that, and I said, hey, this might be something I can work on. So it started off with just kind of inanimate things, flags, posters, things of that nature, bumper stickers. And then it got to folks with, clothing that kind of tell you where they're coming from. And then it was like, well, okay, that's one side of it, but how about those who don't feel that way and how they're affected by that? So someone who may be on the side of Black Lives Matter, I guess, just to kind of throw something out there, or someone who just wants equality and how they're also part of America. It's not just those who are so patriotic that can still be in this country and love this country or even hate it. There are different perspectives to look at. So I'm kind of trying to I'm getting into that part of it at this point. Is just, people like veterans who may not have necessarily gotten a fair shake after they've served the country, and those who are still serving and have seen the benefits of it, or family members of those who served, or just the regular person and how they're seeing, everyone's perspectives and are not living through it themselves.
What would you like to do with this work?
And once I get it together at some point, maybe I would like to make a book out of it and, maybe get it published. I don't know. We'll see how far I can go with it, or how many images I can put in there that kind of tell a story.
The best thing to do is have all the metadata, where it was taken, any of details you have on it. Make sure you write everything down, because the opportunity could present itself now, or it could present itself in 10 years.
Right.
As long as you have all of the data associated, that's what is going to separate you.
Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're interested in learning more about the photographer, you can check out more of their images and stories on our website, scop.io, and buy our book on any major online retailer or your local bookstore. Tune in to our next episode. And don't forget to subscribe. See ya!